Evening, everybody. How are you all doing? Hope you're all well. We've got a guest on this evening. I'm looking forward to him. To be honest, I'm going to probably skip going through all my usual sort of updates and probably do them midway through because I've quite enjoyed this guest company last time. Standing man when I had my electricity problems. Some very interesting questions. I think everyone else enjoyed it as well. And that just was chatting sort of backstage, if you like. He's got some good questions lined up and a quick fire round, apparently, which curiosity's got the better of me with that one, to be honest. So I am just going to prime you. I'm not very happy with something going on with internet. I think it's going to try and take me out at game again tonight. So we've got the ultimate standing man ready anyway, if that happens. But let's see. And you guys just keep me posted. If it seems to be a nightmare, then do let me know. I'll see if I can change the connection over. Let's not waste any time and bring in Joe Mitchell once again.
Hi, Ricky. How are you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me back on again.
Pleasure, mate. I think everyone thoroughly enjoyed it last time, including myself. And this quick fire round has certainly got me intrigued. So
I'll leave it till last.
I said for me to skip through my normal waffle. I thought we'd get stuck straight into it, mate. So what's happening in your world at the minute? Everything all right with the pond?
Yeah, everything's really good. I managed to get out to Japan in November. And went out with a local dealer here and went to the south of Japan. So went Fukuoka and managed to go see Okawa and Ogata and see an auction happen, which was really, really cool, and some little bits of harvesting. So bought some fish back, which I've been extremely happy with.
Good.
So, one of Makarashi split its leading ray on its pectoral fin, which is frustrating. So that might have to move on at some point. But one of them
that is the ultimate frustration. That one for me.
Yeah. So
just one bit we can't fix.
That's it. But moving 4 fish into a pond in winter has been a bit difficult. I need to move some on now, and it's next year is going to be, can I get growth on them now? Because last year was just first year in koi keeping properly, and then next year I'm going to be investing in an auto feeder and trying to, scale them up and grow them on properly. So, really excited for next year now.
Good. So, what questions have we got lined up then, Joe?
All right. So, my first question: all the fish you bought last year, which ones impressed you the most on growth alone? So, we've heard a lot about Shinoda, Hyatsuri, Oya, Asagi, Yellow Monkeys, Black Zeus, etc., etc. Which one?
Highlighting my addiction to the world there. Cheers.
Was there one particular variety you thought was, because I guess you've got different conditions you're growing in them all in, but I'm guessing
to be fair, conditions are simple. I mean, if you talk up the main 18 ponds I use for growing, I mean, 10 are identical in setup. And the other 8 are identical in setup, other than those ones getting the showers now slowly one by one. So, what impressed me the most? I think, to be fair, end of the season, the Dainichi stuff frustrated me last year, and it was all my own doing because of overstocking, just having too many fish coming in and not being organised enough. So throughout the main course of the season, they sort of really lost the growth, which I luckily, because of the heating, managed to extend that season. And then sort of in that last bit, I really made up for it. And by the end of the period, ultimately, they got that solid 6 months growing in the end through me manoeuvring around. And I did manage to achieve better results than I had with last year's batch. So happy with them in the end. Probably the Shinoda Hyatsuri blew me away from start to finish, and I just loved having them so young and then being able to document it and share that as well. I think for me, I've got a lot of enjoyment from that, people being able to see them from the 6 to 12 cm that they were up to the 450 odd cm that we got them to over a 12-month journey. I'd really enjoyed that. But probably the most was the Dainichi Nisai I was growing, because it's really the first time in a long time I've grown Nisai to Sansai. especially when I have really been set up for in fact, I've never really pushed Nisai through to Sanzai. It's just never fit the business model. It's still, to be honest, for the business, a complete and utter waste of time, but it's enjoyable for me. And I wanted to see if I could, what boundaries I could push through using them same 3.5K ponds. And I set that that pond out with about 20, I think it's 22 or 24 Nisai that I'd already raised from Tosai. And a lot of them were male fish as well, which was another part of the challenge for me and something I wanted to highlight in particular. And given that now there are, and it's this not just an isolated case, there's male Sansai in there touching 70 centimeters. And I can see that Alan is joining us and Crafty as well, who's seen these, and Lee, if he's watching, you know, feel free, guys, to just share your thoughts on those fish that you witnessed in the flesh, because these were a prime example of this. I've just been banging this drum about, you know, males, buying males, getting the most for your money, and that being a route to it. And prime example of what can be achieved in there. It was not a pond where people are going, oh, they all look like males. It's just a phenomenal pond with fish with big bodies, great skin condition, and all the rest to suit, you know, and being probably 90% male fish in there. Yeah. So yeah, for me, that was the one that really did it, because I've achieved it. You know, there was a female Karashigoi in there that I was raising, a client's fish. That was an Akawa Tosai that I started with, introduced it at Nisai, I think it was about 54 or 56 cm. And I told the client my aim was to get that to 70 cm as Sansai. And I got it to 69 in the end. So, you know, it's just yeah, I'm chuffed a bit with what they've done. And yeah, it's gonna roll on sort of next year, because this year's Dainichi now Nisai, the stocking level in there just come spring will get reduced a little bit, and that whole pond will get pushed on, and it will be 100% male that get put in there as well.
Well, so are you hoping to try and grow them on again next year? The Sansai you've got now, are they staying?
No, I've actually been telling. I'm sort of done with them now. We're going to start bringing them to market soon, because for me they've served their purpose now. To invest just commercially, you know, I've shut 2 fish houses down for renovation, so pond space is a major sort of issue at the minute. So to give a pond up to raise them further, there's no real commercial sense and value in it. I'd love to, but there's just not a lot of sense for me. So that pond will get raised for raising stockfish, really.
Yes, some amazing fish there for some very lucky hobbyists, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One question I wanted to ask, and I've been having the debate in my koi club recently. Mud ponds, the actual mud element of the mud pond, the mud, does it do anything at all, or is it the space and the fresh water? The actual mud element, take that away, does it do anything?
The mud, I think the bit that's the myth is that it's enriched with all these minerals and all the rest of that malarkey, to be honest. But the mud is the filter. It's the heart of the pond still. So yeah, absolutely. The whole ecosystem that's breaking it. Obviously, the volume plays a part in that by dilution, but then the mud base is the ecosystem. So yeah, it's absolutely essential. And obviously, it's harboring a lot of that natural food and the crustaceans and stuff like that they're all feasting on. So I've just seen Alan drop in there. There we go, folks. I was about to say, and that's coming from one of the UK's leading judges, but I'm still reserving judgment on that one yet, folks, to be honest. So yeah, what was that? Yeah, so that is, to me, it's probably the most essential part, but it's the combination of so many factors. We've seen different theories that we think it's just it's the fact that the water's soft. I don't buy into the fact it's just that the water's soft. When you do some maths on some of these and you move into the realms of the bigger fish being raised in them, I've done one calculation before and found that one fish had about 24,000 gallons for the whole summer. Mm-hmm. I mean, just right there it tells you all you need to know. And I've seen for years and years and years as well the difference it makes. I can get incredible growth rates in regards to centimeters gained with my 1,200 gallon ponds, but I cannot get anywhere near the same body as I can in the 3,500 gallon ponds. Just not playable. And I know they say, you know, we can do all water manipulation and stuff like that, but I believe the route to raising, you know, fish successfully jumbo with the ultimate body volume, it's not just about centimeters, it's volume. It's where the mud ponds start coming into their prime, because the sheer amount of surface area the fish have got to swim and exercise to build that volume. Very, very low stress levels. Because I mean, if you're talking stocking levels of one fish to 20,000 gallon of water, you know, the sort of pressure in the pond from all your bacteria and stuff like that, the words evaded me, is really, really low. So they're living under low stress. They've got phenomenal water. You know, we're talking, you know, water from snow, very, very water that's got nothing interfering with it, coming from the mountains, feeding these ponds as well. And it's that dream environment. On top of then the manual feeding that's done quite intensively, they're then feasting on power food, you know, as much as they can consume as and when they need it, in all the snails and worms and everything else that they find in there, other insects. And we're generally talking there, if you look at a lot of the analysis of them, the super high protein, 50+%, and fat, you know, anywhere between 20, 30, 40% fat. Absolutely crazy. Yeah. And that's, for me, when you bring all that together and all things considered, plus then obviously the knowledge and experience of the breeders vital. It's not just a case of putting these things in. If them guys don't manage it, and I've seen firsthand what it takes to manage it and get that feeding right, the results aren't going to happen. So yeah, the mud plays its part, because without the mud there is no ecosystem. It's just I mean, if you take the same comparison, if you took a pond of the same sort of size, took the mud away, it wouldn't be the same environment. You'd have all the advantages of the size and the sort of scale and dilution, but I don't believe it will create the same environment overall. Obviously, we know ingestion of clay is quite good for the digestive tract and stuff like that. So yeah, overall, yeah, I'm not saying it's magical mud. It's mud. It's a concept that works. But likewise, as much as that, you know, the same results and can be achieved with concrete ponds with the right setup and management.
That leads into kind of the next question. I think that from what I hear and what I watch online, a lot of breeders now, you might tell me I'm talking rubbish, but they're moving towards concrete ponds now. In some of them in Japan, where they're starting to, you know, keep more tatigoi for less risk in growing them on in concrete ponds, mud ponds.
These big breeders, obviously they're dealing with such valuable fish now that are being sold at auction. Let's just take Sakai as an example, because they are leading the way with this. Such valuable fish that, you know, the risks of the mud pond, it's just too much at times, because, you know, nature is playing such a big part in those results still. And it's not just keeping the fish alive, it's customers' expectations of the results that they're wanting to get as well. So rather than, you know, play with the variables of a mud pond, more and more control is coming, and more investment in them indoor systems where they're getting that more sustainable results, and then, you know, applying the same techniques. But they know, you know, these guys aren't trying to do it. You're not seeing Sakai trying to raise top level fish with a 5,000 gallon pond. That's no disrespect to anybody, but I believe the culture over here has been, you know, this thought of raising super jumbo fish in puddles of water, compared to, you know, they're using such expansive ponds. So when I was pacing them out when I was there, you know, you're talking 40, 50 feet in length. Yeah. And you know, 10 foot wide, not crazy with the depth, because it's not that necessary. And they're, you know, you're probably looking at 10 to 15 fish in their tops at the highest level. And then you look at all the filtration equipment around it and everything else that they're doing. It's super high spec. And I still believed, for me, there's body volume, because a fish, let's say a fish at 90 centimeters carries a certain amount of volume regardless. But the ones we see in Japan, that you may well have seen a few now, Joe, that make you stand back and go, holy shit. It's kind of like this extra 10% they eke out of this body volume, just taking it to another level like we don't often see. and not everybody can take fish there, but your Naritas, your Sakais, all of these people are becoming real specialists at it. And that body volume, I believe, requires water volume in order to do it. Just because if you break it down, the sheer amount of food that's needed to achieve it, when you've got a small volume of water, it's just managing the levels of pollution is just too much.
Yeah.
So you need that volume just to help dilute shit down a little bit, literally.
Yeah.
Give you expansive filters. This is something else that I'm toying with at the minute, because don't get me wrong, I get it from a hobbyist perspective, but we've gone from the days of filter systems on ponds being, a certain width or length of the pond. And now, don't get me wrong, technology's moving. That's all condensing right down, which is great. But sometimes I don't always think it's for the better. I think we've been led to believe we can do too much with these small amounts of filtration that are being added on to the side of a drum filter and stuff like that these days, because the filter systems at a Sakai probably hold more water than most other hobbyist ponds. Which is all combined in this system, and there's just volume of everything. So that's sort of where, but more and more are doing it. Yes. I think you'll see Nagata, Dainichi is leading the way there. I think that's a given, but they've got similar pond setups. You see it, it's identical, kind of 40-ish foot long ponds, very, very long, where they've got plenty of room to swim. And huge filters, on top of the shower filters added as well, and big investment on equipment. The Japanese bead filters, which are popular, that they seem to love them. When a guy, one of them is more serious about raising fish indoors, because they start investing in bits of kit like that. So and I think it'll follow more and more with others eventually. But obviously, Nagata is very much a farming community, and it's about getting them out in the fields. But the serious high-level breeders know there's a lot of value in keeping the fish in the concrete ponds.
Yeah, and the flow levels as well, to keep that volume of water as well. It's unbelievable. It's literally like a wave machine, and some of them with the big fish, like the ones that I saw, were just absolutely crazy. And with thousands of little toeside, there's absolutely zero settlement on the bottom. And I just wonder what the operating costs must be to do something like that as well.
I've never delved into it. I think even for their excess, probably cheaper than living in the lovely country that's the UK.
Yeah.
So but it's for them. It's sort of that similar mentality that it's fish first.
Yeah.
What's best for the fish when you're raising them, and then you work backwards from there, really. And ultimately, when you have got to start watching the pennies, somewhere there's going to probably be a sacrifice along the way. But that's just reality. It's finding out which is the best one to make, to be honest.
Okay. So my next question, what is the best thing you've seen coming out of a mud pond? And what is the worst thing you've seen coming out of a mud pond?
Oh, here we go. Best thing. Wow. I've got to say, that's popped straight into my head. The best thing was when I harvested my Kindai Showa at NMD this year.
I thought that might be it.
It's just the fish. I'm completely, that's my fish, that. And to sort of have that be in there, and that it's a pretty special pond anyway. And just to pop it up like that, and the impact and impression it had, I still now just seeing that face in front of me, it was quite remarkable. And I think it was probably clear to everyone. It was sort of like the highlight of the pond as well, which was pretty cool. Worst thing, crikey. Now you've got.
I suppose there's always that risk that you go.
Worst thing. No. Worst thing for me. You're all gonna love this one. To be honest, growing up, I had a horrendous phobia of frogs. And I mean, this was seriously bad. We was talking hot sweats, tears, the job lot. I saw a frog, I'd be like Roadrunner. I'd just out of there, gone. And it actually, because it always, obviously at this point, which I'm one of my big aspirations was to harvest a mud pond. And I've seen videos of how fully loaded with frogs they can be, especially these bloody bullfrogs, which is where this is going to head. And Yeah. So in the end, I had hypnosis for it because there's just no way I was going to get around
Wow.
this. Not a chance. And worked a treat, to be honest. Still don't love them, but yeah, worst thing than bullfrogs coming out. They still, don't get me wrong, I didn't know it, so I can tolerate being around it, but the things still violate me. And every time I see one, just no. So I don't know if that's probably not the answer you was expecting.
No, I was expecting maybe like a Kahaku that's now a Shiromuji or something like that. Something.
No. I mean, to be honest, you expect to see that kind of stuff, but they're still not my favourite thing. And in all honesty, I quickly learned the bullfrogs sort of exist on the ponds that are on the lower ground. That's where they thrive. And to be honest, I do avoid them harvests a little bit. That's just not my favourite. I'm still a bit edgy. More up in the mountains, you get the little ones. I don't give a shit about them, but these things are fucking massive. No. So there we go.
Brilliant.
I can't wait for all the shit frog jokes. Probably going to happen next weekend at the Sankey event. Can't wait for
that. So let's have a look. So, in your opinion, can you add new koi to a pond in peak growth season? New koi to a pond, or would you?
Yes, but with, I suppose it's a bit different because I'm coming at this from a scenario as after shipping commercially. Mm-hmm. So we have to be careful. I never like to get the fish on the food too quickly, because during periods after high stress, it can cause more stress on the body, and digestion is often not at its best as well. So for that, yeah, regardless of when it is, we're cautious around that. But I suppose if I was looking, to be honest, I've sometimes just slipped the odd fish into a growing pond, out of a pond that's not, and it'll adapt to it. So not a problem there. Apart from what you've got to be careful of is if it causes issues, because introducing a new fish can always come with problems. Just the sheer introduction of it, you're going to see it less you're in a growing mode, your temperature is going to be up. So you're going to see it less, but you can just get the sheer introduction of a fish into a new environment can cause sort of viral mixing issues and cause mild viral illness in fish, whereas you'll start seeing stress symptoms, skin pinking up, isolation. That could be in either group. It'll either be the new fish or the existing fish group, one or the other, which can kill things off a little bit. You've got to be careful, because if that starts happening, you're going to be winding food down. But yeah, to be honest, other than that, and obviously a potential parasitic outbreak, which can quite happen just from the stress of moving and introduction and stuff like that, which you're then going to want to be easing off the food to medicate. But this is normal. To be honest, I don't see any major problems. Yes, it's doable. You're just going to have to adapt to what's going on. Don't put it in and get a problem and still try and feed your way through it, because that is just going to cause issues. You've just got to accept if you're doing that, you might likely have to ease off. And I'm talking about this as well, coming from my angle where we're absolutely, flat out on it. Sometimes to the point where obviously it adjusts, the ponds. I tip the ponds over edge a little bit with the feeding and have to ease off anyway. That's why the build-up's so important, and that gradual build-up's so important. So you don't sort of tip over that edge, because, it's amazing when you come off the food, how quickly the system readapts to the lower feeding level. I think, it's hard to know. I've not got any data on how long it sort of does last, but it seems to take a long time to build up and no time at all to lose that capacity. Yeah. So as soon as you're off the food, it's then that slow build up. And if you're relying on ambient heating, so just on natural summer temperatures, what you don't want to do there is shrink that window down, because I think it's narrow enough anyway. An upset and not getting it right or taking it too far and having to come off the food is just narrowing that window. In my case, I'm a lot more relaxed now, because like I mentioned with the Dainichi fish earlier, I can come off the food. I can let the heat kick in and extend my season if I need to. So no issues doing it. You just got to be mindful of the potential problems that can come around it and adapt accordingly.
Yeah, I think that it's comes from that my experience, that question of having maybe 6 or 7 knee sai and then maybe adding a big sand sai into a pond. It kind
Yeah,
of
all
adds a
right,
lot of
okay.
load, adds like a big load onto the pond, and I guess mid-season maybe slowing down the food. Are you gonna make the growth season of them? Are you gonna detriment the growing season of the knee side by adding something into the pond, or would you prefer to just?
No, I don't think, unless again you really can upset the feeding patterns. But this is a reality that all koi keepers are living with because they've not got a vast amount of ponds at their disposal to segment everything up. So
Yeah.
it's just achieving the fact you go with what you want and make it work. But the big thing you've got is that when I talk about that, the real issue there is when you've got the really small fish in with the bigger ones. So like tosai with nisai and beyond, this is where you're going to get the one group somewhere missing out a little bit
Yeah,
because of feeding pattern. When they sort of hit Nisai, Sanzai, and beyond, the feeding pattern, they all slow down a little bit. So the feeding patterns are quite similar, and there's not so many issues, in my opinion, with doing it where you're going to be losing big centimeters every year. And regards fish load on your system, yes, fish loading does have an impact, but it has less of an impact, to my experience, than actual food does. So if you're adding a new fish but not adjusting the food at that moment, I don't think your system will really miss a beat.
Yeah.
To be fair, and that's because if you've got consistent feeding through a feeder, that's the main one that's going to upset your system. Adding one fish in that mix, I don't think it'll notice it. To be fair,
Yeah.
But if you add one fish, then increase feeding 50 grams a day, that is going to have an impact. So I think possibly when that's not done by feeder and it's done by eye, so to speak, people add a new fish, then naturally they start feeding a bit more food, and that's where it all goes to skew a little bit.
Yeah. So in terms of to start a growing season, coming out of winter and going into growth season, would you be if you're ambient at 12 or you're heated at 12, whatever it is, and you want to start your growth season, do you go as quickly as possible to 22 degrees or whatever I don't know what you'd recommend really for growing, or do you scale it slowly, or?
You see, I'm not sure whether I'm going to answer this one or not, because weirdly, I'm literally writing one of the articles for Koi Talk at the minute about winter to to spring, even. But no, to be fair, I am. That's going to be a big part of all that. But yeah, to be fair, just get it up. I mean, don't get me wrong, but the increase. The thing is with the increase, the fish, every degree you get, the fish's immune system is becoming more active. And it's not like going the other way. When you go hot to cold, that's just like always the gradual one. Be careful, because ultimately what you're doing is switching their immune system off more and more. Yeah. But when we've done, often we've introduced some fish from an outside pond just recently, because the temperatures have just really got to them. And funnily enough, it was a batch we introduced out of the greenhouse to the outside pond in a very gradual way during the sort of winter period. They just haven't taken to it all. They're really not happy. And the cold's sort of set in now, so they're being introduced back inside, but they're just sort of going straight back in. So they'll have a bump from around 5-6 degrees at the minute up to about 14, almost instantly. That's not too bad. Don't get me wrong, you can get heat stress. And coming from too cold to too hot. So if I was going from, say, that temperature up to, say, 20 odd, yes, most of the time they'll settle into it, but you can get some weird behaviors like extreme color failure really quickly. I've seen happen from doing stuff like that. So, and that's normally a stress related response. So as with anything, koi don't like big major changes. So the more gradual you can do something. But yeah, for me, if you're sat at that low temperature at the minute, I'd be skipping minimum straight up to 18.
Yeah.
Just get them there up to 18, out of that sort of danger zone, as I like to call it, between 12 and 18. That's no man's land for me. And that's that horrible temperature, like the spring temperature that people get trapped in. So if you have got the heat at your disposal and you plan to use it, get them up to 18 for the early part. And then as summer comes, get it that 22, 25, and away you go.
And at 22, if you were, I know on maybe last week or the week before, you were speaking about activity levels on koi and how long they're active during the day. So like the first feed on your auto feeder to the last, how many
Yeah.
hours are you looking for them to be active? You know, I guess there's no real maths to it.
Yeah. Ultimately, obviously, they are kind of always active, but we're open in the evening. They're kind of undisturbed, so they can get that bit of resting period. But it's for me personally what I think. I set my window. It's just been based on experience, to be honest. That kind of time, you know, we're talking 6 till 10. I'm doing the feeding in the summer, so it's a decent long period. But it's also giving them a nice sort of 8 hours for the system to recuperate, them to get their downtime, and all the rest of it, because just the constant, you know, battering food all day, every day, for me, it's just a thing that exhausts them. I've seen it at particular farms where it just doesn't impress me. The fish get tired and very old looking very quickly. So for me, you've got that time where I give them downtime in the day, and then ultimately the growing period is only for 6 months of the 12-month year. The rest is that downtime. And at the minute, you see, you know, the fish that I'm holding that I'm potentially growing next year from having grown them this year, they're all slimming down quite a lot at the minute because I'm still feeding them, but the pond's now heavily stocked. It's just a bit of food being manually fed just to keep them ticking over, and sort of just losing that bit of excess and getting ready for them to go mad for it in the summer again.
I've got a fish that seems to hate it whenever the routine is changed, and to the this Karasha that I've brought back. If I don't feed it in the morning, it sulks literally, and there's nothing wrong with my parameters. It'll just sulk, and it's really bizarre. All my other fish are fine, parameters are fine.
It could a little bit, Joe, be a period of settling in, mate, as well, to be honest.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
You know, and adapting and things like that. So you know, give it a bit of time.
Yeah, but that's an interesting one. The last one I've got really before quick fire round.
Can't wait.
Jack Mattin versus K1. If you were doing a bio chamber.
K1 every day of the week for me.
Yeah.
To be honest, the moving bed for me has been one of the best advancements in filtration in the last couple of decades, to be fair. It's just the whole concept of it as well. Even, I mean, I'm a big fan of K1. I know there's others come onto the market, the Helex and other things like that, but always been a big fan of K1. Just the whole concept behind it makes sense. The protected biofilm area, having the bio chamber itself protected, the constant moving, obviously the collision that causes the old biofilm to move away, so new hungry biofilm can grow. Just the whole thing, obviously the aeration straight in there as well. You know, fluid beds are absolutely a superb way to saturate the water with oxygen. To be honest, I'd have to get Jasper explained it to me one time, and 98% of it went over my head. The bit that stuck with me was a bio chamber of about 1.2 meters of depth is actually far more efficient at oxygenating the pond than air stone in the pond. Because I think misconception is people think you're injecting air into your filter, it's all being consumed by the bacteria. It's not. So yeah, the concept of fluid beds is superb. The fact they don't allow shit to settle in the chamber as well. They're just very efficient, very clean. And yeah, you know, winding back to my early days, I still remember now bays of alpha grog and shit like that. And I look back now and just think, yeah, no wonder there was forever problems with media like that, because it just, you seem to get shit in it, just decays internally, and it's just not pleasant, and it's just sat there all the time. You think of that in an old bay filter where sediment can just settle and sit on it and stuff like that, compared to this new modern way. It's worlds apart. So I'm a massive fan of fluid beds.
Yeah. Okay. So my quick fire round then.
Right. So, what's the rules?
So I'll name a variety of koi, and you can only name one breeder. You can't name two. So you might upset some of your best mates in Japan here, but accidentally.
You've just reminded me of something there. I was about to say they don't watch it, but this is something I wish I recall, because I'm quite proud of this, to be honest with you. On my last trip, we went to see Issa And this is just quite a mental story all around, to be fair. Not seen him for a bit because the Nissan sort of business there is mental and not really of interest. So I'd not really been or caught him in autumn. But yeah, I went, sat down in office, just having a catch up, and straight away he said, "How's your YouTube channel doing?" He says, "You've got 3.7 thousand subscribers." I was like, "Holy shit, he's watching!"
Wow.
So quite cool, and also felt a bit of pressure. And that's actually, there's been Marihide as well, and a couple of the other guys. So yeah,
so
could
cool.
upset him, but it was quite nice. And this was then followed by the client I was with was after some sort of top showfish, and so I'm asking him, what have you got something? He went, yeah, I've got one in particular. Okay, but it's really expensive. All right, okay. We'd seen some pretty mental fish that week. I went, yeah, come on, let's have a look. He said, no, it's really expensive. He said, everybody keeps asking for that fish. I tell them the price, tell them it's really expensive, and then they walk away. And he's just laughing on his way through all this as well, like it's just some joke. And anyway, he takes us to the pond, main pond with sunfish, and it's this sand side that's 70 odd centimeters, absolutely mental fish. One of the best pattern shower I've seen in a long time. And we're just, sort of blown away by it a little bit. And come on, then, how much is it? It's really expensive, and started laughing again. I went, no, come on, how much is it? Short story to that one is he wanted, I can't remember, it was about 150, 160 grand for it.
Wow, bloody hell.
Yeah. So, and I was like, when he told me the number, I double checked it. I went, what? I said, you mean like a tenth of that? But no. Oh, like, holy shit.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. Crazy. He clearly likes it.
Somewhere.
I think he's probably no intention of selling it because I think he just liked the camaraderie and the banter of it, to be fair. But crazy place. Issa's, yeah, crazy place. So anyway, mate, go for it.
Okay, so we'll start with the Go Sankey then. So one breeder. I will not accept two. You can't. Got to.
Okay. Okay.
So let's do Kahaku.
Dainichi.
Sankey.
Sakai.
Showa.
Oh no, I see I ballsed up there. That was a bit quick. But anyway, Showa, Issa.
First answers only.
Yeah.
Yamabuki.
Izumia.
Okay. Shiro Utsuri.
Homusako.
Okay. Asagi.
Otsuka.
Otsuka.
Yeah.
Shisui.
Shisui, shit. That's like Kawakami.
Kawakami.
Hands down. Yeah. They're going to be a growing project this year as well. I managed to get some.
Okay. Hayatsuri.
Shinoda.
Kujaku.
Omasako.
Benigoi.
Dainichi.
And last one, Chagoi.
Marihiro.
There's some on there that I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah, which ones?
Well, I've never heard of Kawakami before for Shisui, and I thought you would have said Oya for Asagi as well.
Okay. Yeah, so Kawakami, the best Shisui breeder. The growth and of these fish is phenomenal. But they're sort of, and to be honest, that's kind of reinforced by sort of Narita's support of Kawakami Shisui as well. It's his go-to man. Not been able to get him for years because he always gets them. It does my bloody head in. So this year I've just gone to him. I managed to catch it right as well. So when I was there in autumn, even though I told him I wanted them, it's still not told me it got them. They were swimming round. So I was like, yeah, go on, I want them. I'm having them all. So that is going to be one of this year's growing projects because I've had them once before and I was just blown away by the speed at which they grew with quality as well, the body. So I'm quite excited for that this year.
Yeah.
And yeah, Asagi, Oya, don't get me wrong, Oya is a close second, but they're two very different styles. And what gets me, what's Alan saying? Dear me. No comment. Yeah. So what the Otsuka style really gets me. It's the face shape. He's got this face shape that I just completely adore. It's remarkable. It's a one-off characteristic. I think I've mentioned this before. You know, I would spot Otsuka, and he managed to get this Asagi blood across all his other varieties as well. So like the Kage, Shirotsore, there's so many things it's filtered, and this face shape has passed down. And I hands down guarantee you, at any given point, if you put a vat and there was one Otsuka Asagi in there, I would pick it every time. It's such a distinctive and strong trait, and personally, I really like it. Other than that, yeah, don't get me wrong. There's quality-wise, Oya and Otsuka are there together. It's just, you know, personal preferences.
Yeah.
And Oyas are great. To be fair, Oya manages to get more body on Asagi because Otsukas do have that more natural, slender Asagi line, whereas Oyas managed to beef the body up a bit more, which is quite nice. And he has Kadogin pretty much as standard with his Asagi. So yeah, that was that one.
Yeah,
really.
the scalation on. Sorry.
Sankey, I sort of flipped Sakai because Sakai's fresh in my mind from being down there. And to be fair, we can't argue, but Takano has got to be probably my number one choice, to be fair, because the fish are also accessible for me.
Yeah.
You know, we can get all the Sakai fish. I've managed to get the Sakai Dragon Ball Sankey this year, but it's just not as easy to build that same kind of rapport. And what Takano does as one man is quite remarkable. And that ties me onto a plug there, to be fair, because is it next weekend, the event?
Yeah.
I think it is. So, we've got a handful of tickets still available for anybody who hasn't or wanted to get their hands on one of the Secret Sankey event tickets. You can find details of it on our website, on Koi Wholesale's YouTube channel, or on the exclusively Koi website. If you want to buy a ticket, you need to head over to their site to get one, but there is still a few remaining, and you're not going to want to miss this, folks. And this is a top Sankey breeder. The fish are already doing phenomenal, and like I say, I think if people aren't clear, the fish are being grown on at my place, so you're not just buying what you see in front of you. They're going to have 4 solid months in my growing ponds, so I should expect you're going to be pretty wowed by what you get back in the end. So any other surprises on that list, Joe?
I think one of the Showa, Issa. I guess there's so many you could have gone for Showa. It
was between Issa or Dainichi.
Yeah.
There's just something about Issa Showa. If you saw, you didn't get to Niigata, did you, on your trip?
No, I didn't know.
No, if you saw the quantity of mind-blowing Showa he produces, I think he matches Dainichi in quality and quantity. For sure.
I tend to like the pattern of Issa Showas, like the ones we get over here that I've not seen them in. They seem to be more like Kindai rather than Dainichi.
Yeah. Big part of it. Part of it. It's a very modern style of Showa. You don't get much traditional. Whereas Dainichi, because Dainichi Showa, I mean, is Sumi. It's where Sumi came from. You know, the quality of Sumi we all know. And but you do get a lot more heavier patterned Showa, which is more typical Dainichi style, traditional.
Yeah. Are you expecting any surprises at this year's All Japan Koi Show?
So I have not tallied up. There's a lot of. I've only actually got 2 of my own fish being entered. I've sort of calmed down a bit this year, but customer wise, absolutely loads of customer fish being entered, and a few serious challenges. I mean, serious challenges. So I'm quite anxious, to be honest, to see if they deliver on our hopes and expectations, to be fair, because if these kind of fish can't win some top awards, then it's game over, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll wait and see. It's always, there's one. Craig sort of mentioned there, Marido Marathon Koraku. You may have seen that on my Ricky Stoddart Nishikigoi Facebook page, but I'm expecting some pretty big things from that this year. Maybe I'm not quite sure what Narita's done with it. It had a lot of body at the time of buying it, but he was not happy with the volume it had. He wanted more, which he's probably done. But certainly, I think that's a fish that could potentially win now, and then also maybe even push through for potentially real top honours in 2 or 3 years. So we'll wait and see. All relies on the thing staying alive as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, anything can happen. Yeah,
it can. So so folks, we're going to start with what I normally start with at the front bit now, a bit of a catch up on bits and bobs. So I've just mentioned the Tucano event coming next weekend, which everyone who's taken part so far, thank you very much. Can't wait to catch up with everyone. And still a few tickets available if you do want to get involved. So All Japan Koi Show coming up. I'd started a bit of a discussion on the Koi Talk Subscribers Club group on Facebook about that earlier, just to see people's thought process on it, to be honest with you, because when you're involved in that level, and I always try to make sure when we're doing stuff we're as subjective as possible and includes everybody, it's quite easy to get into all this Koi Show talk and actually it bear no relevance on the majority of koi keepers, which was sort of what I questioned, is how relevant it is to everybody out there. So feel free to comment on here, is the All Japan Koi Show relevant to you as a koi keeper? Do you think it affects your hobby? Is it something you aspire to take part in, or do you think it's all just a load of hot air? I'm always curious to know where people's at with stuff like that. And I suppose the main one to sort of touch base on with everyone is there's a few changes sort of coming up. So you're going to see a lot more of me in the coming months working on Koi Talk. We've had so many plans for this, but Koi Wholesale's growth over the past few years has tied me in. But thanks to the great work of Chris, and I hope he's not watching because I don't want to praise him too much, but and what he's been doing at Koi Wholesale and the mag, to be fair, we're giving him a bit of a shove up the ladder, so to speak, and he's taking on a lot more at Koi Wholesale to free my time up so I can fulfill, a lot of the vision I've got for Koi Talk and just trying to use it as a platform to improve the industry, improve knowledge, and, change things for the better, hopefully. We've been looking for somebody. We actually started looking for a new member of the Koi Talk team because that was the thoughts, but I personally want to get stuck into that a bit more. So off the back of that, we've found a new team member who's going to be joining Koi Wholesale. And while you're all watching, I'd like to introduce you to him. So welcome aboard, Joe.
Thank you very much. I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
I'm excited, mate. I think it's going to be you're going to be a super addition to the team.
Thank you.
To be fair, mate, ever since that first interaction when you held the show up for 10 minutes while I disappeared, I was pretty impressed back then, and it was a great episode as well. I love the questions and the angle you come at it from. So can't wait to get you on board, mate, and see where we can take things.
No, me too. And hopefully I can nab a few fish out of your Dainichi pond. I'm kidding.
That'd be nice. If you want to work for absolutely nothing for the year, then sound, mate. Crack on. I have been saying I could do with a few more people where I can start paying in fish for stuff. That'd be great.
Oh dear.
So I love that one. Look, Mr. Tate. Oh no, Joe. There we go. Can't wait, buddy. What is it? First of Feb, you're coming in.
Yeah.
I presume that's not a weekend. I've not actually looked at the dates, but
no, it's not.
Like I say, mainly going to be focusing over at Koi Wholesale with Chris, supporting him, but I'm sure there's going to be some crossover work on the magazine, as we all do, really, as one sort of team behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So looking forward to it. It's going to be an eye opener for you, buddy, I hope.
Yeah, I think so. I think I can learn a lot and do something I'm passionate about. A lot of people go through life working a career that's a 9 to 5, and hopefully this is something where it gets me out of bed on a Monday morning, and I'm dead excited to go and get stuck in. So I appreciate it.
As long as you don't support United, who do you support, Joe?
No comment.
Into football.
Leeds United.
Oh, nice.
Mighty Leeds United.
That's going to get a bit more cracking banter in office, that one, isn't it? So I've got a Leeds fan, we've got a United fan and an Arsenal fan at the minute, which is unbearable for me. That is right now.
Yeah.
Chris, to be fair, Chris was pretty good this week in not gloating too much.
Oh, it's too good for you at the minute, though. So hopefully it all goes rubbish again.
Fair play, mate. Fair play. So yeah, that's a big change, folks. One I'm very excited for, and more importantly, excited to really get our teeth get stuck in more with Steve and Rob. You may well have noticed we've been a bit quieter with the video stuff on YouTube. That's because Rob, our main man for that's off on compassionate leave at the minute. So we will be back before long, but more than anything, me and Steve's been getting a lot of work on new content and getting our mag scheduling back on track and all the rest of it. So yeah, if you've not seen already, we have still got an offer on. I think it's 50% off on back issues, which runs until the end of the month if you want to take advantage of that. And yeah, new subscriptions are being opened back up soon. You'll see news on that out and about. So yeah, I think that's pretty much covered all them bases, Joe. Any more questions, or shall I delve into some of tonight, see what we've got?
See what we've got.
Okay. We'll start off at top A with Terry's. Question for you guys and gals out there. Getting a Sakai Tancho Sankey. The only thing is the Tancho is small but centered. Is it worth getting, or should I hold on for a more complete Tancho? That's a good one, Terry. Budget, mate. That's what comes down to, and holding out for the more complete Tancho. I mean, the things are hard enough to get as it is, and when you get them, they carry the price tags. When you get them, then they also carry a Sakai tag. That's just racking up pounds and pounds and pounds there. So always like to remind people we've got to stay relative and conscious of the price point that we're dealing with. So if you feel like it's a good fish for the price, go with it, because holding out possibly mean you don't get one or struggle to find one for the budget. So if you're happy with what you're seeing, then go for it. And I'm sure you all have had, this is one thing, right? And when you hear me talking about why I like to share my tales of the higher end stuff, the dealings I've had in that area of the market and bits and bobs, is that I feel in order to gain the right amount of experience in the industry, you've got to have the fullest amount of exposure possible, and what happens at the top affects everything else underneath it. So when it comes to pricing, I like to share these experiences like that one I just have with Issa, because it lets people, not everyone is going to be fortunate enough to have those same experiences, but I think it's important because, like I say, what happens with something like that filters down. You can see why there's a reason, that price level there of that fish. It's not the only fish getting sold in autumn time. Obviously that one isn't sold, but there's others, at Sakai auctions running through at them kind of prices for Nisai and Sanzai, having multiples of them in the same auction. So this stuff does have a profound effect. Like with this box of Sakai Mango Karashigoi, I bought wild box of fish. But that was all from that actually starting the idea and trying to source it. The information was, we're not doing it yet because Kentaro wants to see what price the fish go for in his auctions, in the batches, because then that has filtered down and affected what he's prepared to sell them for pondside if he allows it. So it's serious stuff. And that is the reason I'm always keen to talk about it, because I think this stuff, like with Dainichi, and it's not a myth, the prices that these fish go for, it's everyday stuff out there. And it does touch upon, even as I was talking to someone about it the other day, these bubbles of Dainichi and Sakai and Momoteros are different. But what it does also then affect is when you've got small breeders deciding that their fish or Dainichi can get X for that, and I feel like my fish is as good as Dainichi's, so why shouldn't I charge Y? It just has a profound impact on the whole industry. And I like to share it because I hope it improves everybody's experience by giving you, that constant sort of feedback on what's happening, to be honest. And yet that's why that ties in there to what I'm saying, Terry, the Sakai world. If you're managing to get your hands on a Sakai Tancho that you're happy with the quality and the price, then absolutely go for it would be my advice. don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Joe. You've obviously had a bit of exposure now to the wider world in Japan and what fish go for. Did you say you was at an Agata auction?
Yeah, I actually.
So that must have been an eye opener.
Yeah, I saw. I doubt he'd be watching, so I can say I saw Yuji-san from Okawa. He was bidding on a Shisui with another bloke, and he literally just held his hand up in the air until the other bloke stopped bidding, and he was just not putting his arm down, and he was smoking a cigarette and moving fish around at the same time with his hand in the air, willing to pay whatever it meant to get that fish. And he must have been buying it for a parent set or a customer or something like that. But that amazed me that breeders buy from each other. But regards Tancho Sankey, I guess the Tancho spot on a Sankey has to be, quite perfect. If you're after one for a Tancho Sankey, Tancho Showa, you can sometimes get a head pattern that can cover up a blemish
you can get away with it a little bit more. As with Showa full stop, you can get away with a lot more with Showa because you assume he just helps everything out. But no, it is, and again, just saying that, even the auction culture has changed the way breeders sell fish because they're less prepared to sell one of the better fish pond side now and prefer to stick it in the auction and let everyone fight for it and just let that dictate the sort of market value. So yeah, it all has a big impact on everything. But that reminded me of another one actually, Dainichi auction. So were you saying that with Yuji? I've seen that happen when Ryuki's been there. Obviously, being number one koi, his whole reputation is around getting the best fish. And I've seen the minute his hand goes up, we know we're all screwed. There's no backing down. But the best one I saw, there's a couple of big characters, male on that. But you've got Max from Max Koi Farm in Singapore, and a guy called Maru who has a lot of big Chinese customers and whatnot. And my first Dainichi auction, I saw these two absolutely slinging at each other. And it got down to a Sankey. And this Nisai Sankey, when the price hit about 70 grand, equivalent in yen, and it was just these two going at each other. In the end, one of them stopped and said, no, look, go on, you take it. And then just a little bit later on in the auction, they were at it again, the pair of them. And I remember watching it got to about the same price, 70 odd grand. And the other one stopped this time and went, no, go on, you have this one, return the gesture. Wow. This is just crazy money we're playing with. But the best one, Max is a big character in the koi scene in Japan, and he's a bit of a wild guy, but he's obviously at all the auctions buying big fish for big clients, paying some crazy prices. And one day, Kentaro from Sakai came to Dainichi to buy male parents, and everybody knew what he was there for. The poor guy is all I can say. So the minute he put his hand, he was kind of waiting. We're waiting for these fish lots coming round. All of a sudden, it comes to males. Kentaro show his interest. Who put his hand up? Max, while maintaining eye contact at all time, bidding, sending the price, absolutely rocketing. And he will have had to pay the end price on the screen. I remember he had Kentaro almost on his knees. Just stop. Just let me have it now. When Max was happy, he stopped and let Kentaro have the fish, which is all good fun. It all makes for all good stories. But then again, if we're just there hoping to get that fish, we certainly you just see this madness going off. So yeah, crazy scene, that one. So yes. All right, here we go. This one's Ian. How we doing, buddy? I heard Joe say he will be moving a fish on at the beginning due to damage. Is this because he only wants show quality fish, and does he not get an attachment to his koi so much that he wouldn't want to move them on? There you go. Then that's for you, buddy.
Yeah, I think with that one in particular, it's never. It might well become my wife's pet, being a Karashi guy. So it might swim around full of absolute shimmies and be an absolute dog and broken pec fin, and so it could become that Labrador Karashi guy. But to be honest, I think that's one of the things that I've learned if I was going to show fish ever in future, that you have to be a little bit, treat them like livestock. I've got one fish that I'd never move on because I had it in my goldfish pond, and I've got an attachment to that one. But the others, like, I gave them names to begin with. Yeah. And then I've had to sedate some of them, and I was a a bit of a slobbery mess, you know, putting down fish. Like I had an attachment with my fish,
Yeah.
and I think, you know, sometimes you've got to be, you know, you will lose fish along the way. It
Yeah.
happens when you start to do this hobby. So I'm
Yeah.
starting to become a bit more brutal about how I'm managing them, and if I don't go out there and like the look of them
Yeah.
swimming
Yeah.
around, or the first thing I see is that pectoral fin, and I don't see anything else, I
Yeah.
have to move it on because it'll
Yeah.
frustrate me.
Yeah. I think this just comes down to knowing again what you want out of the hobby. So if you know things like that will not bother a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with that. When it comes to forming a collection, it's for me, and that's a big thing. You know, when I'm like that end pond I discussed sort of towards the beginning, that was a collection in there that's been refined. That's why when people look at it, it's pretty breathtaking, because I don't accept if there's been a couple of fish that started going the way I didn't want during this summer, I whipped them out. It's refining that collection and keeping the consistency and it looking that way across the board. But that's what satisfies me. If that's what works for you, great. If you're not bothered about that and you're just happy to have healthy, happy koi swimming around your pond, fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that either. It just boils down to what you want as an individual. And building a collection takes time as well. You know, there's not many people can just go out and buy that dream collection from day one. And even then, people who can do that still end up refining it over time, because not everything stays at the level they want it to stay at. And pond space is limited. If that's the mindset you're in of wanting to build, you know, a collection that really pleases you, then yeah, not everything stays perfect all the time, and you're going to have to keep refining it. But as well as that, what you'll probably find, Joe, as well, is how you perceive your fish and look at your fish will change with each and every bit of knowledge that comes. Yep. And each and every bit of exposure you get. And this is one thing that drives me constantly, is that reminder of where I'm at when I go to Japan and see how Demichi's doing it, how Sakai's doing it, and what they're doing, and that standard. It's always that nice reality check to go, yeah, well, you're doing well, but we can do this a bit better. You can improve this a bit better and keep aspiring. But again, it's just purely down to individuals. There's no rights or wrongs with that one. So yeah, each to their own. Right, let's dig one more question out. Then I'm going to go and scram my dinner down, because obviously there's a very important kickoff at 8:00. Let's have a look.
Leeds playing.
Oh, there's one.
No, Leeds were playing.
And it begins. DT Koi, what do you get from koi shows? Right, so in a physical sense, if you win, I mean, the trophies and the rosettes and stuff, and the nice boards that decorate my office, a nice little reminder of what's been done in the past. But for me personally, I like the challenge. So when I first got into, obviously, I've never been able to show in the UK. I did it once, my first national, when there was the dealers section. But yeah, other than that, after then, that kind of disappeared. And yeah, so it was only left Japan. And when I first decided to do it, really go for it back in 2016, for me, it was a total challenge, because the way I'd learned to select fish and look at fish was for the long term. So my whole sort of specialist skill set, as many of you seen from the videos, is selecting them young tosai and finding the ones with potential and raising them through from that. So all of a sudden, I had to look at these fish completely differently. And it's a completely different mindset, because to compete in Japan at that level, there's no chance of you know, getting a fish to say compete at 15, 16, 20 centimeters and thinking that's going to be a perfect grow on fish for the next 5 years. Because the level of competition, seen it even for this year's All Japan, right? There was a 14 centimeter Sankey, I think, in one of the auctions. This is going to really blow people away. 14 centimeters. And if I remember right, the final bidding price was around 12 to 14 grand. Yeah. No, and I guarantee you, whoever bought that fish, they bought it for one intention: to compete for baby champion now at the All Japan. Yeah. They will not give one single flying monkeys about that growing through and competing at other size classes along the way. It's been bought to compete at that particular size class right now. Mm-hmm. So that is what you're then up against. So it's a mentality, first of all, that we're fighting against. And yeah, for me, it was that challenge. You know, can I do this? It was adapting to it. And yeah, you know, 2016 Wakagoy, I actually had some amazing results straight off the bat. I think I got Kakugyo prize with an Oishi Sankey, Sabaki prize with a Komon as well, and quite a lot of firsts and bits and bobs. So it was nice. And then, yeah, just sort of progressed it through from there, you know, challenging. Then the challenge comes for me in finding the fish, because I really, there's so few of these actually in existence that are worthy enough to compete. And trying to get them from breeders is a real pain in the arse, to be honest with you, because you're fighting to either get access to it, or you're competing with other people to get access to it, however it is. And I remember I had a couple of good wins at NND with fish that internally I was confident were going to deliver on minimum first prizes. There was a Kajaku, first of all. I think it went into the junior Koi show, it might have been. And I was absolutely locked on. There was someone with me at time, customer says, that's first prize winner, guaranteed. And yeah, it got a gold prize. I just knew it was going to take something so remarkable to beat it. And then I think a year later did that with a Shiro as well, which sure enough mopped up a first prize at the Wakagoy as well. So yeah, for me, that challenge. And then also, you know, challenging trying to find fish that aren't crazy money as well, that can compete, because we've had it with sort of, you know, small NND Shiros and bits and bobs. It's not always about the price that they're advertised for. And it's knowing as well, for me, it's that constant differentiation, because the UK eye is not very, the sort of style of fish we would pick and potentially being a good UK winner, most of the time won't compete in Japan. The style and taste of fish is so different. So it's nice to sort of keep, you know, challenging on that kind of benchmark as well, to keep the eye in there where I believe it's most important. So yeah, probably boiling down to it for that, it's nice to have that constant benchmark and challenge of either finding the fish or competing. You know, a big dream for me, don't get me wrong, you know, you're competing against people who are going in and paying tens of thousands for bigger fish, but to find something that could be grown on, to find it at Tosai, Nisai, and it's raised and eventually becomes a major prize winning fish, that challenge and dream is a big part for me as well. So yeah, what about you, Joe? I'll let you finish it off. What's the sort of appeal for showing for you?
To be honest, I've always said that the one variety I wanted to show was Asagi, just because it was the fish that I fell in love with, really. And I kind of feel like there's a common perception out there that Go Sankey are the most difficult variety, and they probably are in some respects. Yeah. But I also think, you know, when you see a phenomenal Asagi, it can blow your mind just the same as a phenomenal Sankey. Absolutely. And you know, I think a lot of the shows we have over here, it takes something really special to break a major award. I'm talking like Grand Champion or Mature or something like that. And I would have, that for me, you know, when I retire or whatever, that's my goal. Win something with an Asagi, like a real one.
Yeah.
You know, Mature Champion or something like that, I'd be happy with.
You see over here, I think that's an even bigger challenge. I'm not going to even get into that debate, but it seems too institutionalized for me for that to ever really be a thought. But yeah, I mean, we've seen it in Japan, International Junior Koi Show, Benny Kikakuru being the grand champion, the Aoki fish, because rightfully so, it was the best fish in the show and a fish of a generation as well. So yeah, stuff like that. And yeah, interestingly enough, I've got a client's Asagi, Otsuka one of his best stands I managed to acquire going into this All Japan show as well. So fingers crossed for that one. So there we go, folks. Yeah, Flurry enjoyed that again, Joe. And I'm sure you're all going to be seeing a lot more of him as well. Seeing a lot more of me over on Koi Talk, and probably more of Chris and Joe over on this channel as well. So yeah, happy days, exciting times ahead. And yeah, we'll catch everybody next week.